My name is Dale Campbell, born and bred Alice Springs local. Working out on Tjoritja-West McDonald National Park is, pretty much a privilege because I'm working out on my country, my family's country, so it's pretty much, the best.
My name's Doug Taylor. So myself, I'm an Arrertne person. So for me, this is ancestral country. So as a ranger, it's great that I can work the country of my ancestors and also at the same time be able to exchange that knowledge with visitors for the significance of the ranges, because there's so many important sites all through the ranges here and definitely along the trail. Where we are at the moment is on Euro Ridge, when we're about halfway along section 1 of the Larapinta Trail. And Larapinta Trail is an amazing hike of 240 kilometres, 12 sections right through the West Macdonnell Ranges. Hundreds and hundreds of hikers coming through the trail every year now. It's one of the most spectacular hiking trails here in Australia, definitely. It gives you the whole overview of what the West Macdonnell Ranges are really all about.
As you can see, the country's quite dry right now, well up to 40 to sometimes up to 50-degree summer days. So being a park ranger, we have to provide water to the Larapinta Trail tanks, service the toilet blocks, even provide assistance for hikers that are injured. Also, helping with a bit of information, providing a bit of knowledge of the place, giving that education to them is, one of the key things.
Oh, good.
So there's our resurrection ferns. After rain and after any bit of moisture that we get in Central Australia, resurrecting fern fingers will reopen up and pretty much bring back to life. After the moisture dries up, they eventually curl back up and go back to sleep, pretty much.
You can see where the flowers are starting to come on it, by the bin on it. It's like the honey eaters have extracted all the nectar out. As a ranger here in the Northern Territory, particularly like here in the central part of the territory here, a ranger's role is very, very diverse and different. And it's so good for us to work because we're not just doing one thing, we're doing lots of different things. We're doing things like fire management, weed management, as well as looking after the trail. Now, well, let's hope Nature's Fire Unit comes this summer.
Summertime
Rain again.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a fantastic role, and I feel very fortunate to be doing. And very much for our young people here, they have opportunities to be able to be rangers, and that's what we want. We want our young people to be able to work the country of their ancestors and feel good about it, because this is their home. And what better place to come to work? I mean, what an office.
So we're at Simpsons Gap here. So this is where I pretty much work from a day-to-day basis. In Simpsons Gap, there's permanent water. Definitely would have been a very important place to Arrertne people. There's a couple of fig trees, so native rock figs. They thrive on the edges of the waterhole. Also, we've got our population of black-footed rock wallaby that live up on our range. So definitely a pretty good refuge, for surviving back in the days. Would have had quite a few different tribes coming in and out of this place, so I reckon it would have been a very, very mutual ground. In the Tjoritja-West McDonald National Park, there are at least 8 different family groups travelling in between all this country, and would have had to share it at times of drought. They would have only had this waterhole to come to. All the other waterholes along the way would have definitely dried up. So Simpsons Gap would have definitely been a significant place of survival. So this is our native spear vine. Arrertne men back in the day would make their spears out of these, and only the spear shaft would be made out of this. Sometimes you can see them growing off the tops of the cliffs. I've seen some of them growing a good 10, 20 metres long. So, spear shafts that men back in the days would have gotten was, quite long and probably 3 times as man size. So, yeah, what the men would do is get this shaft and add a bit of mulga to it, to the tip, because the mulga is much harder and heavier wood. And you'd bind it with using a bit of kangaroo sinew, and you'd get a pretty good spear. I've made a couple in my time working and living out on park here, and yeah, they do fly. So this tree is a river red gum, and it's pretty much one of the biggest indicators of water around Central Australia. Our people, would have used this to definitely find and indicate where water was and where water sat in the creek lines. They say what you see above the ground is what is pretty much below the ground. So their root system is pretty large, and it runs straight down into the water line. I have to say that one of the most characteristic trees that you see in Central Australia, because each branch tells a story of its life, I reckon. Also, they played a big part in the cultural ways. They could be up on the banks of the river lines, and they could represent boundary lines for other tribes, family groups. Also, the old ladies would carve out a good bowl out of the bark. Because the bark dries, it usually curls when it dries, and the bark becomes a nice water bowl. Also, a baby, like a coolerman for babies to be carried. So yeah, that's our river red gum. So this creek bed may look dry, but always has water along the line. Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty lucky here, Dale. The land of the upside down rivers, eh?
Yep.
You hear it?
You hear that water?
Yeah.
Underneath there.
And this sand, it's so fine. Just shows you how old these creeks and rivers really are.
Yep. So it's pretty spiritual. In my way, I feel it's very cultural. Especially being born and bred in this country, in this land, I feel a very cultural connection. I feel sometimes the ancestors and the old people, even by a breeze of wind coming through, showing me that someone's still here. So having that very spiritual connection to the place it's very special.